suis ravie de vous accueillir à nouveau pour nos
I'm
échanges qui
happy to see you again.
Guy, merci beaucoup de votre
Thank you, Guy.
soutien. Merci beaucoup, Guy.
Thank you for your support. Thank you for organizing this ID forum. Let's resume our work.
Vous pouvez aussi les poursuivre à l'extérieur.
Of course, if you want to chat with another guest, please leave the room because we have two B.connect guests. You've probably heard about B.connect before. We're going to learn all about B.connect with the two founding fathers of B.connect, Pierre Chassigneux, who's with us, the CEO, and Stéphane Mavel, who's the sales director. She has boarded the B.connect adventure. Pierre, tell us a bit more about B.connect. B.connect is an authentication solution, a mass market authentication solution. Safe, without password, seamless, and adopted by the main French banks. It's quite an ambitious project, a very promising project. Can you tell us more? What does it look like? What are your goals? What is your purpose? Yes, and it's not magic. B.connect, as you rightly said, brings together 42,000 people in France who, from the end of the summer of 2025, will be able to use e-commerce sites or their online banking sites. They will be able to create their B.connect account, use the B.connect service freely, so 42,000 French people will use it after the summer holidays. Why one click for a free service? Because we really rely on the same authenticating method implemented by the banks 25 years ago when the directive on payment services was deployed. And we also rely on the KYC implemented by banks after the opening of bank accounts. So we're really relying on existing assets of the banking community, and we add one segment, an AI segment, which will, in at least 80% of the cases, make it possible for a user, for you, for me, for any French citizen residing in France, if you push the B.connect button, except for public services, but for private services, with the B.connect button, you will only have to click once to access your client account or your service for a service provider. You will no longer need to enter your identification number, and we will never rely on a password. B.connect is the end of passwords forever. Goodbye, passwords. So it's an issue in terms of streamlining. I think we all have the nightmare of remembering hundreds of passwords. So a nightmare as a user, but also a nightmare in terms of security, because however complex your password is, you can reconfigure it constantly. Just a few figures. The number of passwords that are being hacked every year, between 30 and 60 billion accounts, and more than 2 billion personal data are stolen every year in France, and more than 200,000 victims go and file a complaint. Though on 200,000 go to the police, so you can imagine what the actual figure is like. So it's totally unsatisfactory, and there is a true question in terms of keeping those issues under control. So B.connect is a mass market authentication. 42 million French people will have access to it in October, and service providers will use it. We want to protect privacy. We're not going to monetize any information. The service will be for a fee for commercial players with a promise of a return on investment. And if you have any questions on that, I'm willing to answer your questions. Yes, Pierre. We're going to come back to the issue of data protection, the fight against fraud. We talk a lot about it, whether here at the ID Forum or the INCYBER Forum. Stéphane, we today, within the forum that is dedicated to digital ID and the wallet, what is the positioning of B.connect in that ecosystem? Good afternoon. Yes. I was on the side of the world of digital identity. B.connect is not an identity provider. We are really providing a safe identification, authentication. So we are really a complementary force. I've spent 15 years working on digital ID, where the prerequisite was to have a mobile application, to download it, and then to use it. This is an enormous obstacle for many people. We are really looking at mass authentication using what has already been done by the banks in France. And when there's a need to verify that you are who you say you are, then your banking application will kick in exactly in the same way it kicks in when you need to validate a payment. So we no longer have a hurdle to authentication. The future will tell us how we can cohabit with the wallet. But in September, we will all be invited to create our B.connect account. And by the end of the year, we will all be using B.connect, whereas the wallet, we still have some years to wait. So the banking application is not going to wake up every single time. No. This is the intelligence of the tool. In 80% of the cases, the simple fact that you will click on the B.connect button will authenticate your ID, and you will have access to your favorite services. In 20% of situations, your banking application will kick in because we have a doubt, either because you connect from a device that is unknown to us, we're not sure it's you, so we call upon the application, or you're in a different geographical location, and hence we need to check that it is indeed you. Now we want B.connect to be present in our daily lives, so we will get to know a lot. We will know your habits. We will know how you usually carry out purchases on the net, and when necessary, in 20% of cases, the banking app will kick in. For service providers, how is this B project welcome? What do they expect? What is your value proposal for them? It's welcomed very warmly for many reasons. Because when we talk to merchants, for example, vendors, e-vendors, this is what we really rely on. E-merchants have 20% of clients that give up when they have to use a password, even more than 20%. So we come up with the solution saying you no longer need a password. All people with B.connect or FranceConnect. I've spent a few years on FranceConnect. We made the same promise. You can no longer forget your password because you no longer need a password. We B.connect, we're better than FranceConnect because all you need to do is click on a button. And this is what e-vendors tell us. It's wonderful. No problem of people that have forgotten their password or people who want to reinitialize their password every single time. We also doing away with the risk of phishing with B.connect. Do away with your passwords, do away with your ID, so you're going to limit the surface that hackers can attack. They will go elsewhere. You will limit the number of cyber attacks because you will do away progressively with your passwords. And your last point that maybe Pierre hasn't mentioned, on some e-commerce sites where you want to pay, B.connect has an additional functionality because we've scored the process. We're turning to frictionless. We still have users, 15% of users, when their banking application kicks in and they have to authenticate, 15% of people give up on their purchase. With B.connect, if you connect with B.connect, we have a scoring. This scoring is given to the vendor, given to the payment provider, and this goes back to the banking institution, which decides to kick the application or not. If the bank knows that B.connect was used, there will be less need for a strong authentication because the level of trust will be high already. So it will be operational in the autumn after the summer holidays. You will have to inform people above and beyond people attending this ID forum, people interested in ID forum. How are you going to inform 42 million French people about the existence of the button and the advantages of the button? We have a campaign that is being finalized with our 5 shareholders, 5 big banking groups, Société Générale, CIC, Crédit Mutuel, BNP Paribas. In September, we will roll out our campaign, our communication plan. They will get in touch with their 42 million customers through mailing campaigns, also in the different local banks. You will be informed, invited to create your B.connect account. And in the mails you will receive from your bank, you will also receive the name of providers that have integrated B.connect. We already have agreements with major vendors that we can't give out the names for confidentiality reasons, but many big brands have signed with B.connect. So you will see the point, because those are brands that most of us use very regularly. So just to be clear, we're looking at between 5 and 10 million B.connect accounts for the first year. The higher the number of B.connect accounts and the more users and the more vendors will be interested in joining. And our goal is to have in 5 years' time 1 billion transactions on B.connect. We're not talking about a dozen million, or we're talking about billions of transactions using B.connect. Let me give the example of our Swedish friends. They've launched a Swedish B.connect bank ID, also covering the public sector. Sweden, 12 million inhabitants, 5 billion transactions, 8 billion transactions using the site. 85% of the authentication market in Sweden today. So we wish you the same. I'd like us to be just as successful as our Swedish counterparts. But if we have, in 5 years, 30% of coverage, it's potentially between 5 and 10 billion authentications. This is the scale we're looking at. And this, to me, is the real topic. As Stéphane said, the point is not to be a competitor to the ID relay. We're looking at a complementary position. For me, the ID is for public services. B.connect is a knife. You use your cutlery every day. It's something simple, something for your daily life. B.connect is to be part of everyday life. It's a one-function tool. The only point of B.connect is to connect safely to all sites in the private sector with one click, which is why I say it's really complementary to public sector initiatives. And that's fine. There's room for everyone. But B.connect is really focusing on simplifying our daily life, on securing our connections. 9 French people out of 10 fear theft of identity online. It's a societal fact. And talking about fighting fraud, fighting ID theft, how can B.connect manage that? How can B.connect provide protection? No password. B.connect relies on an AI engine, 3 layers of AI that are independent from one another, so they can work even if you only have 2 segments out of 3. It still works. That's very important. I come from the world of payment security. I used to work for the ANSSI a long time ago. What I've learned in terms of cybersecurity is that you shouldn't try to do too much. Do what is fit for your purpose. Don't try to provide something that is more than your purpose. Have a solution tailored for daily life. This is the lesson, the one lesson I've learned from my years in cybersecurity. Second lesson learned, streamlining the process. If you're faced with a complex operation to ensure security, unfortunately, users will choose simplicity, always. So for us, the challenge was to find the balance, the best balance between simplicity and security. And after trial and errors for years, it didn't occur overnight, we now have this ability to provide a simple, fluid solution which is secure. I'm not saying that it will have the high or substantial level of security within IDaaS. I'm saying it is equivalent to substantial. And the substantial level, the equivalent of DSP2, is amply sufficient for daily life. Maybe one last word that some people in the audience may have. We've talked a lot about e-commerce. What are the other fields of application? And another question, you've talked about the 5 main banking groups in France. If I'm not one of those, if I'm not a customer of one of those banks, in terms of sectors, we've signed with a credit provider. We're about to sign the one we've signed with, credit provider, is seduced by B.connect. We've signed with a major media support for subscription rather than having to subscribe online with passwords. We're also in touch with health providers to go and get the results of your blood tests, for example, insurance companies, private health companies. All private sites are interested. So there's limitless possibilities. We're meeting them progressively, and we see a real desire to join, even when there's no payment. With payment, it's frictionless, but even when there's no payment, it is still interesting. And if I'm not a client of one of those 5 big banking groups, can I still have access to B.connect? Yeah, 42 million people. The 8 million people that are not a client of one of those banks will be able to access, because early 2026 we will open B.connect to all banks in the country. There will not be shareholders, but there will be subscribing to the service. And I've already talked with a large number of those banking institutions. They will be able to sign up to B.connect and make the service available to their clients. This is something that is planned for the beginning of 2026. Thank you, Pierre. Thank you, Stéphane. So keep an eye open for what's going to happen after the summer break and then through to 2026. Thank you, Pierre. Thank you, Stéphane. Please stay with us. Short break, 10 minutes, and at 4:30 with me, we're going to talk about the European policy to implement the ID wallet in 10 minutes.